So thank you, Merrick, for sending us this deck list. And we're gonna review the commander for this is Prava of the Steel Legion and Tekik Salvage Splicer. If you would like your deck list to be reviewed on the channel, like I mentioned, the deck list for the link for the Discord is in the description below. There's a deck list review tab on the Discord, and you can just submit your deck list over there. So let's see if there's a thing over here that says what the deck wants to do. I'm gonna check to see if he says what the deck wants to do in the Discord. And there's nothing there. So if you do upload a deck list, if you place like a little description of what the deck is trying to do, that'd be cool. So we're gonna have to figure this out ourselves. But what I'm imagining is that it says creature tokens you control on your turn get +1/+4. We can use Prava to create tokens, and then when the Salvage Splicer enters the battlefield, you create a 3/3 creature token. Whenever an artifact is put into a graveyard from the battlefield, put a +1/+1 counter on this commander, and then on each other golem you control. Okay. So we have another method of creating tokens. This deck is how much money? It's $77. Okay. We have Wall of Blossoms. Okay. Wall of Omens. Okay. I mean, does this creature tokens you control get +1/+4? I think what would be cool, let's see. Populate. Return target card from your graveyard to your hand. I'm assuming that these cards are here because you're able to... Does he have artifacts that create token copies of creatures? So right off the bat, what I would say is, because I see that you have Tristani Discordant. Oh, there's Selesnia's voice. Because this does populate, so you're going to be able to create more token copies of creatures. But I know that there are a couple of artifacts that allow you to create, what's the word? You can exile creatures from your hand, and then you would technically be able to just tap the artifact to then create a token copy of a creature. And, you know, at 2 mana, these are really cheap ways to just draw cards. And now that it's a token copy on your turn, essentially, it's going to get that +1/+4 buff. So you're going to have a 1/8. And I know that there's, yeah, oh, it's already here. Cool. The Assault Formation, this card right here essentially reads, each creature you control deals combat damage equal to its toughness rather than its power, which is a pretty powerful combination considering their creatures get +4 power essentially. So that turns the 3/3s with the Salvage Splicer into 7/4s. Oh, that's actually pretty strong. So yeah, I would definitely suggest, actually, I think I have a copy of these 2 cards. Let me go grab this commander deck. I'll be right back. Yeah. So, I think inside this, this is my Zabaz commander deck, but I think inside this commander deck, I have the 2 cards that I'm thinking of. But I think it'd work pretty well inside this deck. And I think they're relatively cheap too. Like, I'm not too sure how much money they cost, but I think it would be I don't think it would cost anything more than like a couple dollars for these 2 cards, honestly, together. Yeah, there's one, and then there's the other one. Actually, this one wouldn't work because that's specifically for artifacts. Okay, but this card right here, the Soul Foundry. This Soul Foundry says, when it enters the battlefield, you may exile target a creature card from your hand, and then you can tap this for 4 mana, or the mana cost of the creature, to essentially create a token copy of the card. So I definitely think that, and if I head over to Card Kingdom, Like this card is, what's that called? Soul Foundry. Yeah, this is 35 cents or 79 cents. Or if you want to get a foil copy, it could be $3.59 or $2.69. It's just not that bad if you want to bling out your commander deck. I think that card is pretty important. I also think that this card says it's in Commander 2019. So if you do want to pick up like an old commander deck, depending on how cheap that commander deck is, you may be able to just get this card within that deck and then have a whole new set of cards to kind of build stuff with. I know that I do that. I do that a lot. So if I keep looking, we have the Squatley. Oh, this card does the same thing as that assault formation, so they're going to be dealing more damage. That's pretty cool. Let's go take a look at some of the spells over here. Summoner's Pact. That's interesting. Push your library for a green creature card, reveal it, put it into your hand, and shuffle your library. I never even knew that card existed, honestly. That's a $4 card. Seems cool. Full Flowering. Ooh, that sounds really cool, actually. Towards the Plowshares. There's Deliverance, Thundering Growth, Populate, Cultivate, Eerie Interlude, Far Wandering, Skadamas Reach, Rootborn Defenses. I think I need a copy of this Rootborn Defenses inside my Edgar Markov commander deck. I think that would help out a lot. Splicer's Skill for tokens, Unbreakable Formation, another card that should be an Edgar Markov. White Sun Zenith. I think that's a GG card right there. I've seen that card win games a lot. Cosmic Intervention. If a permanent you control be put into a graveyard from the battlefield this turn, exile instead. Return it to the battlefield. Yeah, I mean, this could be a cool way to blink all your permanents, but just keep in mind, like, whenever, because you're playing with a ton of tokens, this is going to do nothing to save your tokens. But it would save your permanents, so your enchantments and things like that. So it's a good card, definitely a good card. We got that. That's cool. That's instant speed. Turn to Dust, good card. Second Harvest, perfect. 35 lands, good. Sandworm Convergence. Dude, this card wins games. It's 8 mana. That's the reason why that card's 8 mana. Growing Ranks, Court of Grace. Create 4/1/1. Okay. Colony Heart Expedition. Okay. You know, I think that I would, if I'm looking at this, because we were talking about that Soul Foundry and just making copies of creatures, you know, and I don't know if there are other ways to do that. I think that in Mitrostan, I think there's a white card that says if you can exile a creature card from your graveyard, and then you can make a token copy of it. It's like Angels, or I forget what the name of the card is. It's like a Seance, I think it's called. Seance? Let me see. Yeah, literally, it's called Seance. This card's 25 cents. So it says, at the beginning of each upkeep, you may exile target creature card from your graveyard. If you do, put a token onto the battlefield that's a copy of that card, except it's a spirit in addition to its other types. So essentially with this card over here, you'd be able to, like we were talking about before with the Soul Foundry earlier, we would be able to make token copies of our non-token creatures inside of our deck. So like cards like the Colony Heart Expedition could easily turn into some creature that enters the battlefield that puts a land into play. And then now you can populate that creature to then put more lands into play. So, and I would probably do that with this card over here as well. Just because we do have cards over here that are pretty strong that cost 8 mana. So let's just take a look at the ramp, Dreamstone Hadron, Cameo's Journal, making more tokens. That's actually pretty interesting. This card actually combos pretty well with the Salvage Splicer, considering that whenever an artifact goes into a graveyard, you put plus and plus encounters on your entire board. So that's cool. Trading Post and Harmonicon. That's cool. Hedron Archive, Celestial Cluestone, Bestiary, Commander Sphere. You know what? Looking at this and seeing this, I would probably take this card out of the deck. What I find interesting right now is maybe because hear me out. The Salvage Splicer says whenever an artifact is put into a graveyard from the battlefield, put a counter on that creature and then a counter on each other golem you control. But like, when I look at this over here, we have the Hedron Archive, pay 2 mana, sacrifice to draw 2 cards. Sacrifice this, draw a card. You could sacrifice the clue tokens to draw cards, right? This Mind Stone you can sacrifice. Commander Sphere we could sacrifice. I think what would be interesting is like, I think that this commander here is not so much like you want to spend your entire time just incrementally putting one counter here, one counter there. What I'm imagining is like you just have a board, you do something where now you can attack freely, or maybe unblocked, or maybe they have trample or something. And like that card Garruk's, there's a Garruk enchantment that gives creatures trample and draws you cards for it being on the battlefield. But what I'm imagining is you could essentially, have them have trample and then just have a turn where you're like, sacrifices artifact, sacrifices artifact, sacrifices artifact, sacrifices artifact, sacrifices artifact. Everything gets 4 +1/+1 counters out of nowhere, and then you attack with your entire board. And now you just basically overrun your entire team or your opponent. I think I'm looking at that card a little bit differently now. I think that sounds actually pretty strong. So maybe, Merrick, when you're playing this commander deck and you have the Salvage Splicer in play, maybe you build for a moment like that, or maybe you play some more trample, because I don't really see anything over here that gives your creatures trample. There's also creatures that say creatures that have +1/+1 counters gain trample. I would think about that, because I'm looking at all this, and there's definitely like a lot of ways to create a lot of tokens, but I just don't really see anything that's just gonna, oh, the game's over, I win, other than just kind of going wide. But maybe one of these splicers over here gives your creatures, these creatures trample. Maul Splicer, yeah. So like, I would consider this a GG card. This Maul Splicer here, golem creatures you control have trample. That seems like that card could win you the game, because now you're able to just deal a ton of damage. So, but it does cost 7 mana. So I would just think of ways to give creatures trample, and then, or I know there's cards that say like, you cast this spell and you tap down your entire opponent's board, and now nothing can block. And then you're just like, I pay that, I play that, everything's tapped down, sacrifice this, sacrifice this, sacrifice this, overrun, I win, But it seems pretty good. I think that this deck would be, this is a good deck. It seems really fun. The synergies are here. You're definitely going to create a lot of tokens. The assault formation with this Prava of the Steel Legion, I think, is absolutely just super intense. I just think that you only have one way here to make trample, and even if you just put like a copy of Overrun inside the deck, cards like if I do this over here, overrun, like this, 25 cents, right? Creatures you control get +3/+3 grand trample until the end of turn. Like that could just straight up just end a game. We also have, I think it's Garruk's, not in Garruk's Wake, Garruk's Uprising, I think it is. Yeah, this is it. So this card's about $2. So it says, whenever this creature with power 4 or greater enters the battlefield, draw a card. I don't know how many times you're going to be making tokens that have power 4 or greater, so you got to keep that in mind. But more importantly, creatures you control have trample. So that's just something to consider and think about. So yeah, that's that for the Prava and Salvage Splicer deck. If you're watching this up to this point, just know that we do have a Discord on the channel, and you can go onto the Discord. The link is in the description below. You can then go onto your deck list review. You can place your deck list there, and then on live streams or when I'm on my own, I could just do reviews for this, like this, and just upload that onto the channel. Just also remember, if you are in the Discord, get into the habit of typing giveaway into the Discord under the general chat, because we do giveaways every single week, and this week we're giving away a copy of Ask Miranda, Martica, Dystina, Coldakar. Okay, so just keep that in mind.